we prepared this slide with also partners of a big project, French big project that is called Confiance.ai that we will present to you today. It comes from the statement that today it's as it had been presented before during the Thales talk during the opening session. It's really urgent that industry can trust AI, because AI will become an unavoidable tool for every application, and if we cannot trust it in the same way we trust classical software or electronics, it won't be we can't use it. So and to have trust in this AI-based system, we have to rely on many aspects of a system, and especially with AI inside. And also most of these topics have been mentioned before during the first presentation. But let me remind it briefly. We need the quality in the development, but AI has a really strong social ethics and societal impacts. As we've discussed, we need certification, and as we've seen before, a classical certification process doesn't apply to AI system. If we want to, and it's necessary to reach safety, and also we have to respect security and privacy, data protection, and so all these aspects has to be taken into account if we want to trust the AI system that we will introduce in our system, in all our industrial systems. And as you know, and it has been mentioned before several times, AI has fundamental weaknesses. We have talked about the lack of robustness, the unknown and that was presented during the out of distribution detection feature. We can also be facing to the data obsolescence. You know, if you teach your system, if you train your system with a database in 2020, what will be the environment in 2025 when you have such new vehicles on the road? So all these problems are really has to be tackled if we want to have a trustable, trustworthy system. And that's the point of this big project that has been launched by the French government. And this project is called Grand Défi. It means the big challenge, and the big challenge about the trustworthy AI. And this project is divided in three pillars. The pillar I will introduce to you, we will present to you, is a technological pillar. It means how can we engineer the way we develop AI systems. We have to build a new way to develop systems when there is AI inside. The classical method doesn't apply. So that's the main part of the main objective of this technological pillar. But of course, this pillar also relies on two other ones. The second one is evaluation. So we need to evaluate in an objective way if the system we've developed during the technological pillar is really useful, and if we really can be confident in the system that will be developed with this development environment. And third one, the pillar about norms. It has been mentioned before during the first talk of Thales. Current norms doesn't apply to AI systems, so we have to change them, to adapt them. We have to know the current ones and only modify what is needed to be modified. And it's necessary that this modification of norms, of standard, fits with the existing technologies, with the state-of-the-art of technology. We have to be very careful that standards, normalization, don't impose things that we are not able to do. And if we are supposed to trust to prove things that technology cannot prove, we have to find the good trade-off between what is possible and what is in the perfect world expected. And then this big project based on these three pillars is really it has been decided by the French government, because the French government know the limitation of AI in the industrial application of AI. So they launch this big project, and this project is, to give you an idea of the magnitude, is a 45 million euros project for 4 years. And it's based on the collaboration of 9 industrial partners that you can see here. I don't know if you are all familiar with Renault, what I belong to, Thales, Julius is coming from, but Valeo, Safran, Naval Group, EDF, and Atos, Air Liquide, and Airbus. As you can see, many big companies in France. And we are working with the research institute that are the CEA, that you know very well with Huáscar here. In RIA, hÉigeartaigh, Saint-Exupéry, we had a presentation from a researcher from them, and Systemics, that is another technological institute in Paris, in France, close to Paris. So as you can see, the scope of this project is very wide, because we want to really apply this development environment that we will try to make together on different kind of AI, the famous data-driven AI, neural network, and so on, but also knowledge-based AI, because there are still plenty of trouble that have to be tackled on this, let's say, more classical AI, hybrid AI, where data-driven and knowledge-based EN are mixed together, and also we have to take into account the constraints of distributed and embedded AI, because some method that you develop for outboard software cannot be applied for embedded ones. And to reach this objective, we have to take into account many aspects of the development. We have to of course, there is algorithm engineering. We have to find a good way to develop good algorithms, but also how to deal with data. The data engineering will be a new part, a new aspect to take into account in the development of development environments, and of course safety aspects, human factors, and system engineering. That is well reminded by Fatek Akai during his presentation this morning. AI is a part in the system, and then of course we have to demonstrate the reliability and the safety and the trustworthy we can have in a component, AI component, but this component is integrated in the whole system, and we have to take that into account as well. And everything, because this project is really focused on industrial expectation, everything will be evaluated, tested on industrial use cases. And these industrial use cases are coming from the various domains that you can see here: automotive, aeronautics, defense, energy, manufacturing, and maybe other, like railway, for instance, or health. And all together, they will bring their expectation to have a way to develop this trustworthy AI. So it gives you this huge matrix of what we plan to do. Of course, I won't detail all lines and all columns of this matrix, but as you can see, the first lines of the blue part of it are about data-driven AI, and here you can see all the trouble we can have with this data-driven AI. How to deal with the training data? How do you validate the system based on data? How do you improve the learning method and algorithms? And of course, it's during the first phase of the development of the component itself that is the first mega column you have here, meta column. But then you have to take into account the fact that these components will be integrated in the complete systems, and all the little boxes you can see here are boxes that will be addressed during the project. Confiance.ai. Here on the second meta line here, you have the knowledge-based AI, and then hybrid AI that I discussed before, and distributed AI. So this gives you the landscape in which we want to develop our systems. It's very wide. It's very ambitious. Something I forgot to mention before, in the in the budget we have here, 45 millions, 50 millions come from the industrial partner that you can see here, and 30 millions come from the government. It's really a strong involvement of French government to have this trustworthy AI. And because that is really expected from safety point of view, of course, but also from acceptability point of view by users. This big project has been divided in 7 smaller projects. Here you have in the middle in the 4 let's say technical projects in which we will develop tools to improve the trust in data and knowledge. It means how can you check that the data you've collected are representative of the domain that you want to cover with your application. The project 4 is dedicated to the design of AI component, trustworthy data AI component. For instance, if you need a component that you can trust on to deal with pictures, 2D pictures, this project will deliver certified at all level, of course, components to integrate in your whole system. The project 3, EC3, that you have here, is about developing tools to characterize AI components. This morning we have seen a nice speech on calibration score, and that's part of thing we want to work in during this on this work package, but also how to improve the robustness, for instance, with formal methods to quantify the quality of AI components developed in this environment. And the project 7 is to take into account the specific problems of embedded AI. And around this, you have 3 other projects. The project 1 here is a kind of platform in which all the components that will be developed in these four first project I have just presented will be integrated to be sure that together they can work together. And in this integration project, we will test the use cases that will be brought by the industrial partners. So this is a you know, at the end, the referee saying, okay, this method that you have been developed is good, and you can use it in your development environment. The project 6 that you can see here is here to develop methodology for verification, for certification, validation. So all the process that is required to validate a component developed to develop tools used to develop AI components will be qualified here in this project that our guest Huáscar is leading. And here you have the project 2 working on methodology, global methodology and metrics for trustworthy AI. So all these projects will work together to develop a methodology recommendation for industry who want to develop systems, including AI components. And if you follow the guidelines given by all this project, you can in a way go closer and closer to certification of AI components that you want to integrate in your systems. To give you some idea of kind of example of outputs that the deliverable that the project can give. For instance, here the project 1 will that is in charge of integration will give a validation tool for industrial use case. As I said, the project 2 will deliver a taxonomy of trustworthy AI and kind of handbook to develop engineering of AI. The project 3 can give you a tool to evaluate the robustness of black box, and so on. For instance, the project 5 will give you a way to a methodology to build trustworthy database to be sure that the database that you're using is correctly assembled. And you can characterize it if there is bias in it, or if the coverage is too small, and so on. And then the sixth, give you certification methodology like race specification and analysis. And the project 7 will give you, for instance, automatic safe compression of neural networks to be sure that during this compression, to embed it, you keep the property, the expected property of trustworthy AI. So it's a 4-year-long project with 3 main steps. We have organized our delivery along 3 what we call batches. During the first batch, we will mainly focus on time series and image and video, and on maybe use case with a pretty low criticality. And then during for the second batch case, we will deliver tools able to deal with a medium criticality and to deal with other kind of application like text, audio, and domain knowledge. And at the end of the project, we have this whole environment engineering methodology and development environment that will be available for even highly critical systems. And of course, we are not alone in the world working on this. Confiance.ai is here is located in Paris and in Toulouse, in the south of France. Toulouse, where the deal project that have been mentioned before by your colleague is getting bigger and bigger. And but we also have a local initiative in France. But what we want to do is to expand to the rest of Europe, with a project in Germany or in England, but also in US and in the rest of the world. So this is the very beginning. We know that even if the project at the French level is quite big with 45 million, so we know that we cannot do everything by ourselves. So, and we know that many initiatives are going forward all over the world. So we have to work together. It's no time for a competition on this domain, to be sure that if we want to reach together a trustworthy AI, I think that is mandatory that we all work together. We cannot be alone by ourselves working on such important problems. And that's it for my very short presentation of this big project. Here we have maybe 1 or 2 minutes left for questions.
Thanks, Rolf and Cynthia. Is there any question? You can write your question in the chat if you want, or you can just unmute your microphone.
I would like to continue from the last slide of the global viewpoint.
Yes.
So, have you discussed how would, for example, in France, how would the industry react when the AI solution usually they are bought all around the globe? So, developing this kind of metric or way of developing, and then introducing to that market AI products that are not developed inside those requirements.
I'm not sure to completely understand your question, but what in a way the aspect of considering the whole world development is necessary, because if we want to go to standards, we cannot consider that what we develop is only for us, because we want to make it a standard. So if we don't share with the other stakeholders of AI, this cannot become a standard. But I'm not sure to really answer your question.
Maybe I was more asking about is the aim to you answer it to the standards, but to raise the, I would say, awareness and capability of the industry to ask for these things, or build, I would say, some kind of guiding network, as for example, our standards they are asking the industry to ask for these kind of features.
Yeah, this is coming. This demand it's coming from industry. Yes, really, industry require this. And if you today, for instance, in automotive industry, we cannot integrate AI in our cars, because we cannot rely on it. We cannot trust on it. And people in charge of safety of our cars say, okay, that's nice, but if you cannot guarantee that there will be no accident during 10 million kilometers, we cannot let you introduce this. So we have to look for the expertise of people in the labs, in other industry, to be sure that we can have a solution for it, and to be able to say, okay, considering the state of the art, this is what we can prove on our systems, and tell me if it's okay for you or not. That is really important for industry, to have this position, to say, okay, when we develop this system, we can prove that nobody can be something safer, because we have applied everything that the state of the art was able to provide. And that's why it's so important for us to work all together, to be sure that we share the same state of the art at a special time.
Juliette, if I can complete the requirements was coming from the industry mentioned on the first slides. This industry are on automotive, on aeronautics, as the first presentation of Thales was mentioned, are also coming from railway industry, manufacturing industry, and especially when you manufacture some critical components for health system and so on. So today, the problem is that we have a lot of proof of concept, a very beautiful proof of concept, but we are not able to deploy it in a real system due to critical issues. So as mentioned by Rodolphe, we need to have a global approach, and we are not able to do it by ourselves. So it's a problem of certification, homologation, and so on, but it's also a problem of how to deploy it in a sound way.
Thanks, Julia and Rodolphe. One last question from Jean-Michel Louiton in the chat. Is Confiance AI open to new collaborations?
For the moment, it's a French project. It will be open maybe first through workshops, and then if there are very beautiful initiative or competencies that we didn't have, we will extend to other countries. We are currently discussing with European countries, but we want also to open it for Canadian because they have activities on deal in the Canadian side. So we are open to discuss, but today the project is starting, and we are focusing on French activities. But in the coming months, it will be, of course, maybe open to new collaboration.
It's open to French collaboration today. We have other partners coming from France, not listed here, that are part of the project. And as Julia said, in the next year, probably we will open to other countries' partners.
All right. Thank you very much for the presentation and the great questions.
Thank you very much.
So, yeah, we should move on to